Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please, Mary.
Brennan?
Here.
Chartrand?
Here.
Legislator Dolphoff has been excused. Hathaway?
Here.
King?
Here.
Causer?
Here.
Marham?
Here.
Mosier?
Here.
Fawcett?
Here.
Tabo?
Here. Everyone please stand, we'll have an invocation. Heavenly Father, you have prepared a budget trying to be conscious of the needs of your people. We pray that it will be accepted with tolerance and understanding by all those affected. We ask for your blessing on our families and all those in need of your mercy. May you grant us peace and tranquility. Amen. Pledge to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Legislators should have received a copy of the November 1st meeting minutes. Are there any changes or corrections they'd like to point out? If not, they stand approved. Report of the Rules and Legislation Committee per Rule 7, Terry.
The Rules and Legislation Committee is met, and they recommend to waive the rules to act upon late resolutions this evening.
Moved by Brian, second by Jerry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, we're honored to have with us tonight a distinguished guest. Josh Genter is with us, and we have a proclamation we'd like to read in honor of the service that he's done for Lewis County. Terry, would you go ahead with the proclamation? Josh, you're welcome to step forward.
Whereas Joshua Genter began his emergency medical services career in 2013 as a basic emergency medical technician with the Lewis County Search and Rescue Ambulance Squad. Thereafter, attaining his critical care certification in 2015 and ultimately his paramedic certification in 2016 through Jefferson Community College. And in May of 2015, Joshua was dispatched with his partner to an ATV accident with reported serious injuries. While en route, dispatchers advised there were two unresponsive patients, and he immediately requested closest advanced life support and air medical response. Upon arrival at the scene, Joshua performed a quick triage of the patients. While treating the most critical patient, he was simultaneously talking on-site firefighters through an ongoing assessment of the second patient. By the time more experienced personnel had arrived, Joshua had both patients prepared and awaiting helicopters. And both patients were airlifted to a Syracuse facility and later recovered from their injuries. Whereas Joshua illustrated outstanding leadership qualities as well as critical thinking and decision-making skills that night, indeed qualities not customarily displayed by such a young responder. And whereas the conscientious and knowledgeable response of Joshua was directly responsible for a good outcome for the two seriously injured patients. And whereas our community and residents are the benefactors of Joshua's conduct, devotion, and commitment, which are the epitome of the caliber responder that every community aspires to achieve and recruit. Whereas in recognition of his exemplary performance, Joshua Genter justly received the New York State EMS Council 2016 Basic Life Support Provider of the Year Award. Now therefore, I, Michael A. Taybald, as Chairman on behalf of the Lewis County Board of Legislators, do hereby record our appreciation and enduring respect for the dedicated service of Joshua Genter as a responder with the Lewis County Search and Rescue Squad.
Can we get another one? Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
At this time, we'll open our public hearing for comments on the 2017 tentative county budget. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak at this time? Please state your name and go ahead.
Mary Vignati, representing the libraries of Lewis County. The library boards, directors, and staff of all the libraries in Lewis County would like to take this opportunity to thank the Legislative Board for your past support. Our libraries rely on county funding to offset the expense of providing technology services to all our patrons. We are extremely grateful for the funds you have provided in previous years. As public service institutions, our libraries have a unified mission to serve our communities by providing the best services possible. And our communities are taking advantage of our services. In the past year, our libraries saw a 6% increase in visits. We added 82 more children's program sessions, providing more opportunity for family engagement in the libraries. We've increased our collections by close to 8,000 items. We borrow and lend with each other in order to provide our patrons with materials that we don't have in our own buildings. And we're proud of this model of efficiency. However, we realize we need more stable funding to keep pace with the level of services we're providing. Consider the costs our libraries incur in order to provide books, audiobooks, e-books, magazines, databases, classes and workshops, story times, and public access computers with internet for our patrons. Lewis County libraries spend an average of $20 per person per year to provide these basic services. We feel this cost is well worth the positive impact it has on our communities. Each of the libraries in Lewis County hold fundraisers, often more than one a year, yet we're still struggling to break even. We're heavily invested in our patrons and communities and will continue to serve them even better in 2017. Next year, 6 of our 12 libraries are markedly improving their technology services to better serve their communities. These libraries will be installing fiber optic connections to increase internet and Wi-Fi download and upload speeds for patrons and staff. This will result in a better, more efficient experience for all internet users. And as school districts in Lewis County continue to integrate the digital world into the curriculum with the distribution of Chromebooks, reliable, fast internet connections through our libraries become critical for work done by students away from the school setting. We consider our communities to be the hearts of our libraries. We exist to serve you, and without your support, we would not be able to do what we do. We respectfully request that you consider funding our libraries at their full request of $40,000. Full support from the county would enable our libraries to continue to keep pace with technology and serve our communities better. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments regarding the libraries?
Could I just have one clarifying question? Is the $40,000 exclusively for libraries located within Lewis County?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And I'm sure that we can give that further consideration. Okay, do we have any other public comments regarding any subject in the county budget at this time? Okay, it'll remain open for time and then we'll close it later. Are there any comments from the public regarding any subject? Privilege of the floor. Okay, we'll move on to presentation of communications and notices. Terry?
Mr. Glenn Gagne has submitted a letter of resignation from the Lewis County Planning Board effective October 27, 2016. We received a letter from the Village of Lowville Mayor, Donna Smith. It's addressed to the board. On behalf of the village, I would like to extend a very sincere thank you for your unanimous decision to assist our municipality. Your choice to waive the tipping fee associated with the Village of Lowville wastewater treatment plant sludge removal certainly makes a difference in the bottom line of this project. The village realizes that this decision required you to receive less income yet it speaks volumes to your support of this project on the aspect of economic development throughout our entire Lewis County. Having the unanimous support of all legislators speaks volumes in itself, and again, I would simply like to say thank you. The board also acknowledges receipt of a resolution adopted by the Sullivan County Legislature encouraging the statewide electorate to vote in favor of a constitutional convention referendum that will appear on the November 2017 ballot. The goal is to achieve widespread reform of New York State government and to permanently end unfunded state mandates on counties and other local governments. It is further urged that each revision or amendment emerging from the convention shall be, as far as practical, set forth as a distinct resolution to enable a vote on each proposal on its own merits and not as part of a package. And that concludes correspondence.
Thank you, Terry. Now reports of county officers and departments, Terry.
All legislators have received copies of the November 10 solid waste and highway audit reports and a copy of the apportionment of mortgage tax for the period April 1 through September 30, 2016.
Thank you. Not sure if any of the standing committees had any report this month's meeting. Rocky, Brian, Jerry, anything?
Nothing to report.
Okay, then we
Mr. Chair.
Oh, Bill, did I forget you? I'm sure you've got something.
Purely intentional, wasn't it? Mike, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk about Joan for just a second. Is that okay? And then I got a couple of motions. As Mike knows, we had the grievance hearing with the Hudson River Black River Regulating District, and 3 counties had presentations, Herkimer, Jefferson, and Lewis, done by their attorneys, and our attorney far outshone the other ones, and I just wanted to give her an attaboy for that. I think you'd agree with that, wouldn't you, Mike?
She did an excellent job. I'm proud of her.
Well, I do have to notice that in the paper I was called the cleanup banner, so I like that.
It's better than some of the things we call you, President. Also, I'd like to thank Brian and Jerry and the Junkyard Committee, and again, Joan, for taking an active role in trying to address these issues, and you used ours for an example, and obviously Joan came to court at your urging, and it's already had a positive impact. So I just really wanted to appreciate the fact that you guys are being proactive about that. Okay, now, regarding our solar project, we, as you all know, we got an initial estimate from National Grid to do the connections to our solar project that totaled $729,000, and of that, our portion was to be $633,000. And again, thanks to Dick and Jerry and Chairman Tayball getting the PSC involved, we now have a new estimate. It went from $729,000 to $213,317. And our portion of that is $196,317. So we're going from $633 to $196. So we would like to go ahead and approve this process and get it going. We would have once we have to pay National Grid up front, and then they begin the design process in earnest, working with Green Skies. We would like to hope that by January we would have a more firm estimate and a more firm timeline. But we would anticipate and feel comfortable that this would happen next year. We would be online next year. So I'd like to make a motion to pay National Grid $213,317. $18,000 of that would be reimbursed to us by Green Skies. And this would seal the process and get us going. So again, it's $213,317 to get the process going finally.
Okay, moved by Phil, second by Dick. Further discussion, questions?
Phil, was that right around what we projected the cost would be originally?
We originally projected and set aside $500,000. We had in our contract that if it went over $500,000, we could bail out of the process. So, yeah, we're saving
Okay, thank you.
$300,000.
Any other comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
I have one more motion, Mike.
Okay, keep going, Phil.
Last meeting, we talked about engaging Larson to do a total energy audit with us, which we have engaged them to do that. You guys approved that. In the process, SmartWatt reached out to us again and asked to be considered once more. And because SmartWatt doesn't cost us anything, we thought it might be a good idea to have them do a parallel study along with Larson. Dick brought up that you know, they might unearth something and that Larson didn't, and we could get a more thorough understanding. And also Jerry brought up, which was a really good point, that with the Larson, we would be capped because of our size if we were approved at $100,000 grant, which we don't have to match. It'd be total $100,000 for us. But if we went above that, then as Jerry said, we could, through the SmartWatt program in NYSERDA, we might be able to do the balance through a conventional like we've done all along anyway. So we thought it would be a good idea to engage them as well, and I would make that motion.
Moved by Phil, second by Craig. Questions, comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And my time is done.
Thank you, Phil. Rocky, do you want equal time now?
I have nothing further to report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rocky. Brian?
I have nothing to report this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Jerry?
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman.
Craig?
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman.
Greg?
Nothing to report.
Dick?
There's a couple of resolutions which I'll speak to questions at the time that they come up.
Okay, and Liz? Or Andrea?
Is that okay, Ben? I have nothing to report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Now we'll go to county manager report.
Just a reminder that we've now shut off the IFM system for processing. The work that takes place in the next 10 days is all about getting our balances from our IFM system into the new Tyler system. And we're still on track to go live probably November 29th, 30th, in that time period. Once we get the balances set, we all agree that the numbers are correct, then we turn on the new system.
Okay, very good. And Liz, there's another problem that myself or Liz should come up with some names for this number 3 wind project. It's, I believe, a state regulation that you have to have some community representative so that they're allowed to speak, whether they're opposed or for the project. So I think it has to come from the town of Lowville or the town of Harrisburg, but Randy, you're in the room and you were going to check that out. Have you found out anything?
Yes, I did, and I know your attorney was at a presentation last night at JCC, and your delegation or your nominees can come from anywhere in the county.
Even Diane?
In fact,
Yeah,
all
even
of
Diane.
in fact, all of them from any towns and villages affected can come. My understanding was that they could all come from anywhere in the county.
Okay, so I would solicit help from legislators or the public in coming up with some names from your district.
Can I just clarify something though? I think every municipality that's impacted, plus the county, have to nominate 4 people. the state will then select from, this would be 12 people, will select 2 who will actually sit on the board. Is that, Joan, is that correct?
That's correct, and in fact, if we wanted to, we could all join together to pick those people from all the different municipalities, if we wanted to, that maybe other municipalities don't want to do that, but we could actually join together.
And nominate 2 people?
Yep.
Oh.
Well, thanks for that clarification.
So then they couldn't reject our
But
you
Well,
know,
it just,
that's,
it
and
just narrows,
let's just
it just
remember
narrows
that-
the process for you.
right.
If everyone agreed that those 2 were the acceptable candidates.
And it's a very short turnaround. We don't have a lot of time.
We have 15 days total.
So in other words, if you think of somebody that would like to be on it, it can't be an elected official. It's got to be somebody from public sector. So appreciate any suggestions.
When's the 15 days start?
The 15 days started from the notification, which was the 9th. So, you have, yeah, it's a very quick process and nominating process. So, it's under what they call Article 10, which is the new citing requirements. So you basically have 15 days from the date of notification to submit to the pro tem the nominees.
Okay. Very good. Move along. County Treasurer report. Anything, Patty?
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we go to resolutions. Terry?
You have local law introductory number 5, override the tax levy, to rescind overriding the tax levy, I'm sorry, and you're going to fix the date of the public hearing on that local law for December 6th, with resolution number 464.
Fixing the date, moved by Jerry, second by Brian. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Local law introductory number 6, providing for increases to salaries for certain local officials. And 465 will set the public hearing for December 6th.
Moved by Rocky, second by Jerry. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
In support of the Adirondacks Memorandum of Understanding among public and private organizations regarding recreational access to Adirondack state lands.
Moved by, let's go, Greg, second by Phil. Discussion? I guess I would like to add a few notes here that this is brought about, it's a huge tract of land we're talking that the state has again purchased. It's part of the, originally a total of 70,000 acres. And this Boris tract is another 20,000 of that. And the concern from these towns nearby and everyone is that the state will have it so that it's not accessible to the general public, which is typical of a lot of their state purchases. So this is a kind of lobbying on our part to make it more accessible for things that we care about.
Is this inside the park or is this?
Yeah,
Yes.
no?
No, that's inside.
This is all inside the park?
Yeah, North Hudson River, all that's inside the park.
And as I read it, it would be part of the Forever Wild Forest Preserve.
Do you happen to know who they purchased it from?
Who they purchased it from?
They buy it from one of the big people
Yeah,
companies?
Finch Paper.
They bought it from Finch?
Yeah. Other questions, comments? All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Amending the 2017 tentative county budget to amend compensation plan with reference to civil service office.
Moved by Greg, second by Greg. Discussion? All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
To amend 2017 tentative county budget, various accounts.
Moved by Phil, second by Rocky. Discussion? All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Appointing member to Lewis County Ethics Board.
Moved by Craig, second by Rocky. Discussion? All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Appointing member to Fish and Wildlife Management Board.
Moved by Ryan, second by Craig. Discussion? All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Appointing member to Lewis County General Hospital Board of Managers.
Moved by Craig, second by Andrea. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Appointing member to Lewis County General Hospital Board of Managers.
Moved by Andrea, second by Dick. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing transfer of funds to Lewis County Industrial Development Agency for economic development projects and for an extension modification agreement to the memorandum of understanding between the county and IDA.
Moved by Craig, second by Rocky. Discussion? Jerry?
Question, what is this $400,000? Is this ahead of the one back here further?
Is it what, Jerry?
Are we appropriating before there's another one back here for $525 for the IDA?
That's not all for the idea.
Some of it's for the towns too?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so why isn't that passed before we pass this? Am I wrong?
Well, if you don't pass this one, then you don't need this one. This one would be
Okay,
just putting it in
okay.
the account.
Yeah, why are we, I got a question. Why are we giving the IDA more money when we provided them $700,000 in funding last year, and now we're gonna give them another $400,000, they haven't done anything with $700,000.
I think we can identify where that money will be spent. Would Rocky or Eric address
It
that?
actually was in the budget. Eric, want to address that, please?
I think I would take you back to the meeting in Council Hall. We presented you with a budget for $550,000. Basically, the funds that have been previously allocated will primarily be spent for future development of the business park. We identified a potential gap of about $200,000 to complete the initial work of the business park, so that's where the first $200,000 would be allocated. The remainder of that is open for future projects that are, could develop in the near future. Potentially an incubator, potentially more funding for the Lions Falls Mill. That's a couple of examples.
I just don't see, unless you have a $700,000 kitty right now. And is that all you have? Or do you have some that's from previous years that was already allocated? Correct?
The $700,000 was allocated probably about a year ago.
Less than a year ago, it was January.
The IDA board just approved $100,000 for the Lions Falls Mill. There's been about $20,000 spent on development work at the business park, and the remainder again would be projected to be spent for the first phases of development in the business park. So leaving a gap, we estimated about $200,000 in need for the business park.
So you,
Jerry,
You
you
really
got,
don't need 400, you could get by with 200.
We requested $550,000.
so you,
Jerry, go ahead.
did you say you took $100,000 out of that 700 for Lions Falls Pulp and Paper, or did I misunderstand you?
That was just approved, correct?
Okay, did we have an MOU of understanding? Because the money that we talked about before, and I think it was all legislators here, that, you know, what we lend you for Lions Falls pulp and paper, we expect to be paid back when it's completed. And I think that was an understanding, in the same way with $100,000 this year. You know, nobody else seems to be putting money in there and leaving it. So Phil brought this up before. I have nothing against Lions Falls pulp and paper. I have nothing against putting $100,000 in. But I think I want to make a motion and amend this, that it's under the understanding it's going to be paid back time it's completed and sold. Or the legislator's got at least the option to refuse. So I'm putting that on the table as a motion.
All right, Jerry would like to amend this resolution with a stipulation for the $100,000 that'd be paid back. Does someone like to say?
Last year's included there too, because that was for an industrial park, not down there.
If I can, I also think there's a kind of a fundamental question here that you're bringing up, Jerry, which is when you as a board are investing in economic development, how do you want to be paid back for that? And I guess I would also ask you, considering part of the theory here is that we're investing for the idea that we can bring some jobs and whatnot, and that's getting more job producing people who are paying who are taxpayers.
How many times, Liz, have I been told if we put $300,000 in or we put $100,000 in, they're never going to have to borrow money from us again? And that fruition hasn't come. So I want to protect our $100,000 investment. So that's on the table.
When we have discussion, do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second so we can have a discussion.
Okay, thank you, Dick. Dick seconds the motion. Is there further discussion on the amendment? Brian?
Yeah, and the land, when this is cleaned up, the land is going to get sold to someone, and someone's going to benefit from that sale of the property. Dank is getting some of their money back, or a lot of their funding back. And we, the taxpayer of Lewis County, and it's a great thing that we're cleaning it up. But if that land is sold, we should be getting something back for our return, either whether it goes back to the IDA or comes back to us. I don't care where it goes,
Whether we
but
reinvest it.
we should get something back for the investment. Because otherwise, someone who, I don't know what entity owns the property completely down there, but someone's going to walk away with a big chunk of money, and Lewis County funded a lot of that. And I talked to Larry tonight, he's in Nebraska, and he agreed with me that there should be an MOU in place. It's something we need to discuss about. If any more money goes down there, that we should have something like that in place, if it's legal to do it. That would be my question. Do we have the legal right to do that? Because I know the IDA can't loan money. And this money here that we give the IDA, do we still have control of it, or is it automatically their?
No, so let's understand, we did the MOU back with the $700,000 payment. And in that resolution and in the MOU, you agreed to transfer those funds to the IDA for them to make the determination as to how it would be used, but with them having the obligation to come back and tell you periodically how the money is being used. They don't have the obligation for you to agree or disagree as to how that money is spent.
Well, then that money wouldn't have been transferred if you would have had the MOU, because where we read it, it was specifically for an industrial park, that's $700,000. That's the only reason I voted for it. I don't care what you wrote after the fact.
No, Jerry, was in the resolution that it was for economic development, which...
It was for the industrial park, is why I put it in. But
Well, the whole thing went south when we agreed to give them $700,000 and letting the IDA decide on everything without consulting us at all. They don't have to consult us. It's right in that resolution, and that's why I voted against that resolution. I don't believe the IDA should have complete control, and I like this in there where we're supposed to be regularly updated on it. We don't get any updates. Eric, you came to the C-bill, that was the first time you came and presented anything, and that was August. So that's 7 months that we didn't hear anything about it. So It's just, I don't agree with giving them $400,000 when we don't have any say in what happens with that money. If we've got all this extra money, maybe we're better off giving it back to the taxpayers who's paying it out.
Give it to the library. Can I answer?
Go ahead, Liz.
I like to say, I mean, I think if you recall at the Seville meeting, I thought Tina Purcell, who's on the IDA board, kind of, framed for us kind of how counties invest in their IDAs and the model of Board of Legislators giving an annual sum of money to IDAs is quite common across New York State. I do, think that there has been, obviously there's some differences in collective memory here about what has or has not been decided. I think there's a fundamental question about whether this board supports economic development in this county, number one. Number two is this is a vehicle for doing that. Number three is you all appointed and voted on every single person who's on the IDA board. I think they've got a very strong board now. If you ever attend some of the meetings, I think the discussions are very healthy. I have a lot of faith in their ability to make decisions, and I think that's why we appointed them.
And I'm going to agree, and I agree with everything that you just said. But with the line, majority of your IDAs, when they're investing in something, they're investing in property or they're investing in buildings, they're getting returns back on that money that they. This instance here, there's no return coming back to anyone except for a clean piece of property for someone to sell. So that's where my philosophy is different, if that makes sense. Because most usually they invest into the buildings or they lease the equipment and they're charging an interest to get that funding back. This $100,000, there's nothing coming back even to the IDA. It's just cleaning up a property for someone else to benefit from. That would be my philosophy on that.
And I think, I'm not going to speak for you, Rocky, but I think your IDA board would be very amenable to an MOU on the sale of that property. I mean, I don't know if you've talked with Craig.
Eric, you got a comment back there?
I won't give you exact numbers, but through the end of this year, the Lewis County Development Corporation, the owner of the property, will have spent approximately $3 million on cleanup of that property. There's going to be about another $1.5 million needed to finish the job. I'm not sure the exact number, but I'd say about $300,000 of that spent to date with local funds, quite a bit of it from the county. So return on investment, that's pretty good. We've leveraged $300,000 of our money and $2.7 million of other people's money to get that property cleaned up. There's no guarantee when that job is complete how much money could be recouped. We're not going to recoup $5 million for selling 9 acres of land. We will receive some, hopefully, or we could have a long-term lease that we have an ongoing stream of revenue for some developer to use that land.
Phil?
I don't think Jerry's suggestion is out of line at all. I mean, the idea is to get the money back to use it again. And really, I'm only speaking personally, but I really wouldn't care if it took 20 years as long as we got something back consistently and that we could use for other projects. And I don't think it's out of line at all for what Jerry's suggesting and it seems like from what Brian said that Larry doesn't have any problem with an MOU. So I think we're talking two different things. I think we're talking Jerry's motion and something else.
I'm not against I'm in favor of developing that property and cleaning it up. But on the same aspect, I would like something that we can reinvest, get some of our money back, whether it stays with the IDA or we put it on another project. But right now, the way we're going, it just goes out of the pit and we never see it again.
I'm not arguing with you, Jerry.
No, I wasn't arguing with you, but I mean, I'm not against it. It's just that I feel this should be tagged on, and what the legislators decide when it's time, I could care less, because I probably won't be here, but at least we have a decision.
All right, so do you want to again clarify how you'd like that amendment to read?
It's, for Lions Falls and Pulp and Paper, it's a loan. we expect it to be paid back someday in the future.
I don't quite understand how you might frame that to begin with. But I wouldn't have a problem if we were just outright trying to sell the property. We're trying to develop the property to encourage businesses to come in, which returns the money back to the county and the community at large.
Okay, but on the same aspect, if you can recoup some of it and reinvest it, why put it in a pit that you're never going to see?
But wouldn't you be doing that, Jerry? Wouldn't you actually be doing that if we attracted a client, or whatever you want to call it, an industry, a business to come there? You're investing by cleaning that site and giving them the opportunity to come there and have reasonably cheap power.
Right.
And by so you're getting a return. So does that mean you're selling the property? I suppose if you had a situation where they bought a piece of property and didn't just become a tenant in that industrial park, then you could easily design a memorandum to recoup that money.
Either way you can, a little bit.
Let's just remember that the IDA does not own that property. The LCDC owns that property. So a memorandum, we don't, having a memorandum of understanding with the IDA about them giving us back money from that property, we can't do legally.
Then maybe we're better off doing it with somebody else than one that can do it then, instead of just throwing the pot. I mean, the money goes somewhere, so if we dealt with them instead of the IDA, as far as handing over that $100,000.
I don't think there are any other legal entities in New York that, in your New York state law.
I still would like a recourse there, I'm sorry, but I still have the motion on the floor.
All right, we've got Jerry's motion, but I think you gotta clarify, you want the amount in there that has to be brought back?
Anything, well, it should have been last year because we discussed this before. So, I mean, from now on, every time we give money,
You move money, the IDA?
we put it in the pot and it goes to Lions Falls Pulp and Paper. It should say that it needs to be paid back in the future. And it's up to the discretion of the legislators, whether they want to leave it in there or not. And I don't think that's asking too much.
But this resolution doesn't identify how much is gonna go to the,
I mean, that's
Any
the
amount.
problem.
He's basically saying if any portion of that 400,000 goes to,
Lions Falls
goes into
Pulp
the
and
Lions
Paper.
Falls
It's a
redevelopment,
loan.
that he wants that money returned to the county at some point in time in the future.
100% return.
Or the option.
Or that's,
What was that, Phil?
I thought Jerry said at least have the option.
option to. It's up to the legislators when it
The
gets.
option of the option of the
If
future
you
board,
leave it
okay.
there, they can invest it back in. It's just that they have an option, the money they put in there, to say yea or nay, that's all.
Okay, everybody clear on that?
Joan, is that legal?
Clear as mud.
You're asking in the future possibly to have the money returned at some point. It's not really a loan because you may not get it back. So I think it's okay technically that we do it that way, but we'll see.
Okay, appreciate it.
Well, how does the bank do it?
They charge interest and have you pay back, and we can't do that with the IDA.
No, I want it to be interest-free.
Mr. Chairman, in Legislator Delhoff's behalf, there was comments made that they haven't, or the board hasn't been apprised of updates and what's going on. Each month at the committee meeting, Eric goes over extensively what the IDA is doing. And I think if you look back in the minutes, Mr. Delhoff tells everybody that when he speaks of his committee for the month. So we've been very upfront. I think the board has been very open about what's going on in the IDA and how the money is being used. And I do know that Eric specifically brought that out, that it was needed to leverage more money to clean up Lions Falls, that he would be using the $100,000 out of the monies that we got from the county for the IDA.
That was not any board meeting here by Larry. So, that's
No, that part was by Eric at a board meeting.
not at a board meeting.
Yeah. It was up to C though.
It was at C.
It was presented in what the proposal was to do with the truck, with the funds.
It was spelled right out.
All right, is there any further discussion on amending the resolution? If not, we'll vote on it. Call for a vote.
For which?
All in favor of
Amending it?
amending the resolution as Jerry proposed, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'd be opposed. Rocky opposed. Craig opposed. The amendment's carried.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have,
Mike, I'd just like to, I want to kind of pair at what Jerry said. This isn't a punitive situation. It's, we all, personally, I definitely want to help them get that cleaned up because it's a mess. And when I first went down there and got the tour, I couldn't believe it. And we and Diana had, when I was supervisor, had a similar situation with our old school, and it would have been really nice to have the county help us with that, but it didn't happen. But, so I'm all in support of getting that place cleaned up, because you just can't leave a hazard like that there. And I don't think what Jerry's suggesting is punitive, it's just maybe good fiscal sense.
okay, now we are discussing the amended resolution. So were there further comments on the amended resolution?
I thought we just voted on it.
No, we voted on amending.
To amend it.
Oh, on the amendment.
So now we're open for discussion on the amended resolution. Are there comments, Dick?
Yeah, in section 1, it talks about the execution of an extension/modification agreement, the memorandum of understanding between the IDA and the county. So there's one there from a year ago. I think John read it to us. Can we hear that just again, what the MO, I'm not clear in my mind what the memorandum of understanding between the IDA and the county, I don't know what that says.
The rest of that paragraph, basically, the general terms are that you're giving the funding to the IDA. The IDA is agreeing to advise the board of specific projects and potential projects earmarked for the additional funds, and to so advise the board on a regular and timely basis, and for incorporation of such other terms or provisions that would be required to give effect to that.
So section 2 is the MOU?
No, right there.
They both are.
Yeah. Okay.
This would be a
I think it should be
modification
more
to the
specific.
existing MOU.
Okay.
I think there should be more specifics made to that, actually. You know, where we get a report from Eric, since he's the director of the IDA, that he makes a monthly report to the board, the total board, not just a committee. I don't see where that's such a big ordeal, but maybe other people do. I just think
So-
that's good.
So are you making a point for record then, Greg?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments on the amended resolution?
Still not really great. I'm still really not totally set on saying $400,000 goes to the IDA.
Okay. Other comments? Terry, are you okay with the wording? Do you have an understanding about
I got
that
it.
one? Okay. Any other comments before we vote? All in favor of the amended resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show Greg Kultzer opposed. Resolution is carried.
Okay, 473, authorizing one-time distribution to towns and villages.
Moved by Craig, second by Phil. Discussion? Jerry?
Yeah, why isn't this going back to taxpayers? That's where it was raised from. We got $125,000 to give away. it should go back to where we got it from, that's the taxpayers.
Guess my question is, how do you return it to, make a return to the
Put that
tax?
125,000 on the fund balance and lower the taxes by 125,000, that's how you return to taxpayers.
The following year,
This year,
if you put it
we
in
know
fund,
what we got.
put it in fund balance, it's not a return.
No, you apply it to the budget and state where it's coming from. If we're willing to give this away, we got it to give away, we can put it on what we're gonna raise in taxes and lower it by $125,000. It came from taxes we raised through everybody in the county. And because we weren't sure where we're gonna fall on sales tax to make sure ends meet. And if we got a surplus, then that's where it should go, not being passed on. And I'm not against the towns and villages, but they're taxing jurisdictions too. So I guess, I hate to say this, I'd like to put a motion on the floor that we return it to the taxpayers.
Well, Jerry, if we increase the fund balance use by 125,000 as you're suggesting, then we're gonna have to find that again next year.
We should be able to find.
And actually-
what we're seeing for sales tax.
We should be able to, but we don't know that.
Well,
That's the problem.
we know we got it this year, so I prefer to return it.
Well, you're confusing me because this is what you suggested last year, and I was all for it. I thought you came up with a really good
suggested that we
idea.
distribute it, not that we put 125 in.
Can I?
You said give it to towns and villages.
Budget officer, Liz?
Well, I just like to remind the board that, 2 years ago, we set out to reduce our use of fund balance, and we've been on a steady path to do that. The objective was to get below 500,000 by the year 2021. We took a big chunk out of it last year, and the year before that, I think it was up around $2 million 4 or 5 years ago. We're now, with this approval of this budget, we're going to be down to 820,000. So I think this is a very responsible way. I mean, from a fund balance perspective, I don't have a whole lot of angst or concern. I think we are being very fiscally responsible, and we have set ourselves a path to get from about $100,000 a year to get down below $500,000 fund balance. I think this is a benefit we can give back to our towns and villages. And again, I think it's in lockstep with what we did last year. That money may not be there again, so, I'm not quite sure what the benefit is of your strategy. That's, I guess, what I'm.
The benefit is my strategy is we taxed them last year for 2016. We needed X amount of dollars because we weren't sure of what was coming in sales tax. The sales taxes come in strong. So we overtaxed them, if you want to say that. So it should go back to them, and you do it on a yearly basis. That's all I'm saying. For us to take and raise it in taxes and then give it to taxing jurisdictions, I personally think is totally wrong.
Well,
Whatever the rest of them do, I don't care.
All right, that's fine.
Why don't you write them a check, Jerry?
Write who a check?
The taxpayers. You want to give it back to the taxpayers, write them a
That's what
check.
I said. Lower the budget by 100.
No, not lower the budget, send them a
I'll get
check.
back to them.
Send them a check. Why would you want to use fund balance when we don't know we'd have it next year?
Same reason we're using it now. So, I mean, I got it on the floor. If somebody wants to do it.
I guess
fine.
my
If not,
question would
move
be,
on.
and I need to wrap my head around this, if we have an extra 125,000 we're willing to give to the towns, we could lower our fund balance from 800,000 down to, with that money, we could lower it down this year. That would lower the tax rate for this year, and I understand it will only be for this year. But why aren't we putting that money back in to lower our fund balance? It's only $125,000. I mean, we're over $1 million over our sales tax revenue, and that's where this money's coming from, right? Correct?
We're currently $803,755 over our sales tax budget.
Okay.
And it's going down every time. Again, if we use that to lower the fund balance use, then it's not something we can be sure of for next year.
Well, I understand.
That's the troublesome part.
I understand that, Phil, I understand that. But if you use that towards your fund balance now, what have you lost? If you have to grab that back out next year, you're still at $800,000. You really haven't lost anything, except for our projection to go down.
No.
What do you mean, no?
But you don't, what if you don't have 800,000 extra next year? Now you've got to come up with another 125. Let's assume, and I would also say that, what we're talking about here
Well,
is,
I guess, Liz, I'm looking at it from a taxpayer. If I can take
So,
the
wait,
benefit, if I can
so-
take the benefit today with maybe a possibility that I might have to give it back next year, I don't have a problem with it because I got it in my pocket now. See, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at it as a taxpayer, not as a legislator. I'm looking at it from my
at it
end.
as both, and I'm saying that I have to tell you from a fiscally responsible standpoint here, I have to argue that you don't want to confuse your sales tax revenue, which is highly variable, with your fixed commitments. And what we're trying to, we had a $45 million budget. I would agree, and we knew in the last 2 years we were very healthy on fund balance. I don't think, and on sales tax, I don't want to put this county in a financial situation where we're starting to bank all of our needs on sales tax. We're giving ourselves a little buffer, and we're saying, okay, you know what, we came out better than we thought we were going to. Here's an appropriate one-time use of that fund, of that money, by giving it back to the towns and villages. If you build it into the structure of the budget, you're talking a whole different ballgame then. And I think that's a very bad path to go down. I mean, it only gets more painful. What if next year we really run into a financial situation, and now 125,000 now becomes 500,000 or $1 million? That's what you have to ward against. I mean, it's a balancing.
And I would be
thing
for
here.
writing every resident in Lewis County a check out to make, for the 125,000.
But it cost you a lot to do that.
The issue there, Brian, is there's 24,328 properties. So, it's probably,
Yeah.
between the check and the postage, it's 25 grand of the 100 grand, but
Yeah, I mean,
that's kind of what we
that's-
talked about last year,
that's
is get it
exactly
directly
right.
to them,
We did talk about that last year as a possibility, and we just thought the logistics of doing that outweighed the benefit, whereas the towns and villages seemed, the feedback we got last year was they were all kind of very excited about it and used it to for their project.
Dick, you had a comment?
Yeah, Liz, we're talking 125 here, but our projection from our treasurer is 800 and some odd thousand. And we're putting that 800 and some odd thousand someplace.
400,000 of that is going to the IDA.
That's what I'm just saying. Can you lay out what those other, I don't know them off the top of my head. So it's 400 to the IDA,
And 125 to the towns.
125 here.
We have not spent the other 300,000.
Oh, we haven't yet, okay.
That will either get swept into
But
general
technically,
fund.
we'd be
or-
talking of dividing his number into whatever the sales tax is 800 and some odd thousand.
Actually, Dick,
Instead of 125.
as you remember here, at our last meeting, I think it was, that Patty gave us that template for end of the year fund balance, and there's so many items in that. And one of the big items that we needed to consider, well, obviously was the solar, which we've now decreased by that amount. But one of the bigger items that we have to keep in mind is IGT. And the additional IGT that we're getting this year could happen again next year. And the estimate on one of them was 658 and the other one's 858. And so if we just took the lower number of the 658 with everything else that is considered, and the IDA money and the town and village money, then that's it. As it stands at the moment, if it held through the end of the year, there wouldn't be anything else because of the various other things that are involved. in particular the IGT. Does that make?
Basically what I'm saying, there's other things involved in the 125, yes, I agree.
Quite a few other things, right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and again, you know, this is a snapshot too. Like when I told Brian 803, that's what it projects to right at the moment because we're down 1.1% in sales tax from our previous year, but also we increased what we budgeted. So if everything held true for the rest of the year, that's what it would be. But again, as I just said, it's gone down the last 3 times versus last year. So, and prior to that, it was going up. I mean, in September, it was looking like we would have $1,096,000 over budget. And now, a month and a half later, we're down to 800. So it's a real moving target. But having said all that, I think I feel confident about the 400 and the 125 of doing that now. I guess that was a long, drawn-out answer, but.
Okay, other comments on the resolution? I know, Jerry, you'd like to do a motion, but I think we have to act on this first. So, any other comments on this resolution as it's stated?
I'd just like to add that in essence, we're giving the money back to the taxpayer at the local level. Most likely it'll be used for things to give them improvements in their community or infrastructure.
Projects that we could use this for.
I'm sorry.
We got college, I mean, we're gonna have to, if we move forward with that, we're gonna need money for that, so.
No, you were talking about giving it back in the form of either a check or lower taxes to our taxpayer, which is nice. But it seems more responsible in this instance with that being sales tax revenues to give this windfall to the communities that will put it to use to better the communities themselves.
Okay, are we ready to vote on the resolution? All in favor of the resolution, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Brian, Jerry, Greg, opposed? Resolution passes.
You know, in the future, it might be that we could send checks out with the tax bills. That saved the postage, that cut the price in half. I don't know, and it might be kind of interesting to see how much those individual
Right now, I
checks
don't know
would
that
be.
we have to worry about how much extra we're gonna get in sales tax next year.
I'm just trying to respond to Jerry and Brian's concerns, and it might be a possibility that we should look into that. I don't know, it might be a check for $6 and that wouldn't make much impact, I don't know, but it wouldn't hurt to look into that.
We can note that on the record. Resolution 475.
$475, to appropriate and transfer funds, IDA and municipalities.
Moved by Phil, second by Craig. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Show Jerry, Andrea, Greg opposed.
Authorizing retainer agreement with Bromer, Wallens, Gold, and Manu for labor relations, legal consulting services, and labor negotiation representation and consultation services.
Moved by Brian, second by Jerry. Discussion?
Joan, did they give you an idea when they might be able to meet with us again?
Right before the next board meeting, I'll set
Before,
something
okay,
up.
all right, great, thanks.
Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Amend resolution number 454, compensation plan with reference to social services.
Moved by Rocky, second by Brian. Discussion?
What is this resolution all about, Rocky?
This is the creation of the new social services program examiner where we've combined multiple positions into one, and this is the setting the grade for that position.
The grade wasn't set when we approved. We did a resolution.
Now, is this the same grade level, is this the same grade level as what it was before, or is it higher or lower?
It's comparable to what the other examiners were.
Well, this is the one where they're keeping more positions that way. It's like this is what Stacy Alford did the last,
Yeah.
when she was here.
The objective is that we had too many unique titles, and when people wanted to, and the commissioner had opportunities to move people around, we couldn't do that because everybody had a unique position. So for the last 2 years, our social services department and our civil service office have been working with New York State to create a new job title, which will allow us much more flexibility in moving people and assigning people for life work.
It also continues continues her work staff to be up when the state also is going to take over some of those programs. Isn't that correct?
This is not an increase to staffing at DSS, number one. Number two, it's done in the name of efficiency. And number three, when the state does begin to take over additional responsibilities, this will actually make, let's let Jenny's still here, this will make for a more efficient reduction process.
Yeah, it'll allow us to move people because we'll have a more generic title, so that as we replace people, they can move back and bump easier. There is no additional staff, it's just a title change. Just a change in name, same salary level.
I thought when Stacy presented that to us that when the state takes over the Medicaid billing, that there would be reduction of 2 staff members through attrition. I thought that that's what, and we keep replacing the same people right along. Now, I mean,
We took out last year before Stacy left, we reduced DSS headcount by 3, I believe.
We've reduced 1 examiner through attrition last year, and 1 this year. I was allowed to replace her for 14 hours a week because we are down 6 examiners right now. So that will be by attrition, so we'll be down 2. I would let you know that New York State has only taken 0.1% of our caseload so far. The sweep to take Medicaid cases will not commence till May. But until May, I have an obligation to still determine eligibility.
So in May, you might be able to reduce staff?
Yes, it's a possibility.
We don't know yet. The state has reneged on their commitments to take over this program now since I've been here every 6 months.
We've reduced staff already.
Yeah.
So.
And the other thing we need to keep in mind is that the turnover in Jenny's department in the last 8 months has been somewhat staggering, and the amount of knowledge we're losing from people retiring and leaving is a huge brain drain. So we're having to train people up and recognize that, similar to what the state did with DMV, they're taking the easy stuff off the top and leaving the harder cases behind. So that puts more workload on fewer people who are less trained and less experienced. So you have to be cognizant of the fact that we still have to deliver the service in a professional and service-oriented way.
I understand that, Liz. And Jenny, you gave me the flow chart because I've been following it right along ever since Stacy did that. And I've just noticed that. Because I remember Stacy saying that, and I know Jenny, we had 1 retire that we haven't, since Jenny's been here. But I've been following that flow chart, and it's stagnant now. I mean, so that was my concern because I know what was proposed to us. So I was just following along what was proposed.
Right, and when Stacy was here, the Medicaid takeover should have been done by now.
Right.
Should have been done a year ago.
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
I'm just, you know, following along what was proposed to us, so.
I agree.
Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, but my recollection was it was gonna be a total takeover by 2015,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yes.
Not even
That's
close.
what I thought. And now we're at 0.1%
We've
takeover.
got 0.1% of our eligibility cases, and actually on the other side of the house where we provide home care services and assessment, they have given us cases back and determined that they've added new programs that we now must do. So it's kind of, my ability to transfer and move my staff where we need it is becoming even more important.
So Jenny, if I understand you correctly, they've increased your caseload on the other side of the house
Yes,
and mandate that you do this and not funding it again?
correct,
It's another unfunded mandate.
correct.
Gotta love it.
Okay. Any other comments? Ready to vote on 477? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
To create and appropriate funds for student worker program, one-year college student in service, Pratt Northam.
Moved by Craig, second by Brian. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Appointing members to traffic safety board.
Moved by Brian, second by Andrea. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Carried.
To authorize bank wires.
Moved by Brian, second by Rocky. Discussion?
Patty, I didn't totally understand this, I don't think. Is Joyce in your department?
She is the benefit specialist now, and so when she has to do wire transfers for our Canor Recs, she's just authorized to do those particular ones over the phone. And then now Tasden has been added to the bottom so that she can do the other ones with Cindy and I.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And before we do the next resolutions, I should have asked, is there any further comment from the public before we close the public hearing regarding the 2017 budget? If not, I announce that the public hearing is closed. Resolution 481, Terry.
To adopt the 2017 budget.
Moved by Jerry, second by Rocky. Discussion? Jerry.
Liz, outside agency, we had one in there for $40,000, we left it alone. Has that been dropped down, is it still in there, or what?
I don't, outside age, I don't know which one. I don't-
Play it again for us.
There were three you held out. You held out 40 for double play, community center, you held out 20,000 for libraries, and you held out 1,800 for Lowell.
So they haven't been put back in?
They are not
Okay,
back in.
Thank you.
Other questions regarding the resolution?
Should we maybe discuss whether we should put back in the libraries?
The way I
Given what
understood
they
it,
request?
I understood they were
If you
going
do, we'll go over the tax cap.
But we could
do something later.
review this again when we have a better fix on what the fund balance is at the end of the year. That's something we've done before, and that's not out of the question to revisit some of these other ones too that asked for money that we didn't give them.
So if the projections and the sales tax kind of level off and hold, there'd be revenues to do this for the library?
We'd have a real good idea what we're gonna have in January.
Okay.
Right, Patty, but we really wouldn't wanna do it before because we wanna get through the Christmas on the sales tax, right? But still, at that point in time, like we have before, we could, if we chose to, give one-time shots. Not budget, but one-time shots.
Yeah, I understand that.
So
Quick
what you're
infusion.
saying, Phil, is it would not be in the 17 budget, it would be done in the 16.
Yes, it would be done with excess funds from 16, yeah.
Not budget, sales tax.
Right,
Right, wouldn't be in the 2017 budget.
Correct.
right.
That's what I'm saying.
It'd be one shot.
Yeah, gotcha.
Any other questions or comments on the resolution? There'll be a roll call vote, Terry.
Brennan,
Yes.
Chartran,
Yes.
Hathaway,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Coulter,
Yes.
Mowerham,
Yes.
Mosher,
Yes.
Fawcett,
Yes.
Tebow.
Yes.
Levy, assessing and levying the amount of tax called for under the 2017 budget, $15,338,189.
Moved by Craig, second by Brian. Discussion.
This is the hard part. Charging the people.
Other comments? Roll call vote, Terry.
Brennan,
Yes.
Chartran,
Yes.
Hathaway,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Coulter,
Yes.
Mowerham,
Yes.
Mosher,
Yes.
Fawcett,
Yes.
Tebow.
Yes.
Two late resolutions, 483, authorizing and adopting an energy benchmarking policy for certain municipal buildings in the county of Lewis.
Moved by Jerry, second by Craig. Discussion. Brian.
Want to explain this?
This is a policy that is recognized by the state and something that the Community Energy Board looks at in giving grants. This is something that we do pretty much informally. We look at our buildings and see how they're performing energy-wise. This is setting forth a policy that we'll follow and monitor, and by doing so, that gives us a little bit of an edge in the grants that we're trying to obtain from the state.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Joan, this looks as if maybe it's going to be labor intensive for our department heads, or are we already doing this?
The only labor-intensive person involved with this is Frank Pace.
I see where you want to put it on planning. Thank you.
The work orders. Other comments? All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing application for grant funding under the New York State Clean Energy Communities Program and to author implementation of specific actions by the county to be designated a clean energy community.
Moved by Phil, second by Dick. Discussion, questions? All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Other businesses, Dick?
We've got a handout here from the taxation committee. What is that? Just so it's titled Portion of Mortgage Tax.
That's the mortgage tax collected within the last 6 months and to be distributed back to the municipalities for the amounts that you see there on the report.
Okay.
The treasurer will be directed to make those checks.
Yeah, and this is just normal what we do.
Yes, it's done every 6 months.
Thank you.
Other business to come before this meeting? Motion to adjourn. Moved by Dick, second by Craig. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
That was a quick moment.